Hey, this is Quinn James, and I'm going to be showing off and playing against a computer program, a Scrabble playing computer program called Elise. Elise is the newest of the major Scrabble playing programs. It was last updated in 2013, and accordingly, it doesn't have the new dictionaries. You have to provide those yourself. Um, and it's a little bit tricky to play with the current word list. However, uh, personally, I find it worthwhile to go through all the effort because I think that Elise used, especially used on a powerful computer, is probably the strongest Scrabble engine that is out there today. And I also find that Elise plays more like a human than the other major engine that's out there, which is Quackle, which I really hate playing Quackle because I think it teaches you bad habits that from when you try and apply that to playing against a human. And it's not like the average player will improve greatly but from playing against Quackle, and I certainly did at a time in my career before Elise was out there, but it's a breath of fresh air for this program to exist. So it's unfortunate that it's not all that easy to use. This isn't really an Elise tutorial, but I will, go through the steps of how I get it set up, and then we'll play a game. And I will discuss both the program, and I'll also discuss my thought process as I attempt to beat it. We'll see how well that goes. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go and start a game. Just start a generic game. And you can see that it reads CSW 12. I had some difficulty in the settings getting the International English settings to accept anything other than CSW 12. But there is a workaround, and that workaround is if you copy CSW 15 into the directory of Elise, where all the word lists are, you rename it to csw15.lst to match the naming scheme. This one's csw12.lst. And you go up while you're playing against, while you don't have like a formal game going on where you just like something to annotate or something, like just regular game, start game. Then you can change the lexicon. You can go lexicon, select current lexicon, and drop down, and there it is. Now the reason you have to do this, even when you're playing against the computer, is that you can't change the lexicon in the middle of a game against a computer, but you can in this mode. And so it's a bit of a pain, but once you get used to it, it's not all that bad. So in order for it to preserve the lexicon, you go and select game, new game, same type against Elise. You can choose whether to go first or second. I'm going to randomize it. Put in your name and select how Elise is going to play. There's the option of having Elise play in a set amount of time or having Elise play at a set simulation depth. I'm just going to go with the simple option right now. You can mess with Elise to kind of, by default it's 5-ply, which is quite strong, but you can get it to go like 7-ply or 8-ply or whatever if your computer is powerful enough. I don't want to bring my computer to its knees right now, so I am just going to go with Elise plays in a set amount of time, and we'll see how strong that ends up being. Now I went over and closed a couple programs just to make sure that Elise has enough CPU power to play a decent game. I think it did already, but just to make sure, that's something you might want to do if you're playing it, because it is multi-threaded, but it can be rather CPU intensive, even though the multi-threaded nature of it means that if your computer is, a modern one that has, several cores or whatever, you can take advantage of it and it'll play faster than Quackle, which is not able to take advantage of parallelism like that. Alright, so I am going first. Lucky me. What's not lucky is that even though I have 2 blanks, I'm getting them both at the same time, and I have 5 vowels to go with them. That's not ideal. It would be tolerable if I could find, if there's a few words that have 5 vowels in it, a few 7-letter words with 5 vowels in them, but I'm pretty sure I don't have any of those. I'm just going to kind of go through, just double make sure. I'm pretty sure I don't have any of those, so I'm probably going to be exchanging, and I'm probably going to be exchanging E-E-I-O. There's some situations where you might want to keep multiple vowels in a rack like this, but with nothing on the board, I don't think I will do that, so I'll just keep the 1 vowel. I almost typed E-A-O to keep. That's not what I meant. Okay, E blank blank to keep. And it does track for you. Not in the same way as Quackle, which kind of Quackle would bring it under the bottom. Or no, that's ISC that brings it under the bottom. Quackle has it on the side. Elise just sort of outputs the tracking on the right-hand side. So Elise is thinking. And the computer is running noticeably louder as Elise is thinking. I'm not sure if the mic picks up on that. Interesting enough, I've actually got a bingo in alphabetical order because these blanks they put at the end, so a deemed would be, with E and D as the blanks. And I'm almost sure that this is going to be the highest scoring. I just instantly see that, and it's the M on the double letter. I don't know how you could do any better than that. So I'm actually able to use those 2 blanks for a pretty good purpose. I could have tried and done something defensive, hook on the vlog. See what would Remedes or something. But that's just too much of a point sacrifice. You are creating a dead spot on the board if you do that, but Elise has a decent shot of just bingoing through something and the board's open again and your point sacrifice was for naught or just playing along, because it's smart enough that if it is down, it will open and try and open in a clever way, try and do it for itself, try and set itself up, do things like that. So this is not a particularly great rack to have after Elise spin goes back and we're tied. I think some players might want to exchange in this sort of situation. You see the 2 U's, you see about a bunch of vowels, but I don't think I'm exchanging. It's likely that the points available are too high. Plays like this. and it's like 39. Terrible leave, but still better than exchanging. So what you try to do is see if there's any sort of 30-ish play that you can do that sort of balances okay. You don't want to play something like Taxis and leave 2 U's because, or yeah, Taxis or Taxis. Those are both words. You want to try and figure out how to get. You're probably not getting rid of both U's, but you want to get rid of at least one. This spot is pretty helpful. It's not picking up on the cursor consistently. I don't think so. I guess I can click on some of the spots I'm thinking about. This double letter is probably one of your best bets. I don't think that there's anything that gets the N here. And you also want to be looking at this triple word score, because if you can play and score on the X, then that helps. It probably decreases your opponent's next play by several points if you play something like that, something over there. Axis would be better than Taxis. It's a little bit of a better leave. Is it worth playing over next? I don't think so, because that's like Taxis would already be, you know, a little bit of a sacrifice, and Axis is even more of a sacrifice. It's 8, 9, 10, 11, 33. Whew, well, actually it's a little closer than I thought. I don't know, you really hate to keep 2 U's, but all the candidate plays I'm saying keep 2 U's that are like reasonable. You'd want to look for a spot for like something like O, EA, UX, but there's no such spot. Wait a second. I think this is good. I'm not actually positive though. A bit embarrassing for me. Yeah, no, actually I think it's good. So I was able to block that lane and get rid of one of the U's. So now my rack, while it's still barrel heavy, it's more reasonable. That's nice. It doesn't look like I probably have like a bingo, but it does mean that I could be a turn away from one. Whether it be with a fish like IU, something like that over here, or whether it be some sort of scoring play that still balances okay. Like something like acuity over here would score, but it would leave AE 2 vowels. Still has, I think, 28. That's it's still a lot of points to turn down. There's other decent scoring plays in the 20s, things like Cavity. Which is just worse than Acuity. If you're thinking about, well, maybe I should, block the board, you got to remember that this hook is over here and it's very difficult to block. And there's still 3 S's and a blank out, so it's very difficult to block this. You're probably not shutting down the entire board. Elise did went in that direction by playing Radical over here. It could have played Clarid. If it wanted to be aggressively open, but it wants to be closed, even though it's losing, which is interesting. Even though it's losing, played off 6, and can't have a blank because I already played both of them. It seems that it's just so confident that it can beat me, or that I don't have good tiles after Taxis or something, that it wants to block. Or it's just trying to take out the scoring spots with the double letters here. That's probably what it is, actually. It also blocks, interestingly enough, it also blocks Vacuity, which is a word that I just saw I would have had, which would have been the play if it were still available. I'm looking at this. I'm also looking at just going ahead and adding the A. Playing it without adding the A, I am holding an A, but there are 6 unseen A's. The odds are pretty decent that Elise has one, and it's basically a tie game with me on tempo, so I'm thinking I probably want to add the extra tile up here. What that does, first of all, it creates another scoring spot that's fairly easy to use. And I don't, even though I'm only up by a little bit, it's still to the point where I'd rather have another scoring spot than another bingo lane. If I just played cutely, I would have had another bingo lane besides I'm sacrificing points in the leave source. So cutely goes down for 27. Not a great draw to I. I have a decent balancing play up here, like Iwi for 20. I have whoops on my rack, which is a terrible play because it keeps I, but alright, and Elise takes the spot for 35. I'm still winning. I'm not exactly devastated. Elise might have had an A, so in fact, there's not really anything. Nothing about this play makes me think that Elise didn't have an A. Call could have also been played, but it would be better to play KOW on most racks. So I try and look couple. This is kind of a rack where there's a number of different things that you could want to do depending on what the spots are. You can balance this rack decently by only playing 3 tiles off, or you could try and dump the whole rack, and you would want to keep the S. You're probably looking at trying to keep, trying to get rid of the W. You want to undouble the I's. Undoubling the O's is not as crucial. Play like Wiki. Does balance. I quite like this one actually because my O's could go pretty well over here. If Elise plays over here, that gives stuff back. It's better than playing Kiwi because that just opens an S hook for no reason that's likely to get blocked. And it's in the same area of the board as this one. Broadly speaking, I do want to keep other quadrants open because Elise is very good at closed boards. Doesn't mean I necessarily want to go out of my way to open the board, but I don't want Elise to make it impossible to open it. Iwi also goes over here. That's not as good. It's more blocky and it gives back a lot of points immediately. There's other reasonable plays. I don't like the leave of this. This is reasonable, but again, I want to be doing different things to the board than that. I am gifted with a bingo that now plays Spoofer. If that gets blocked, I probably have several options, one of which is Tef down here. And Elise has a nice bingo. I can't really give Elise a whole lot of credit for, cleverly blocking my bingo because I'm pretty sure that was the only one available. And also, actually, Spoofier is good, so I still have a bingo. So it's a pretty good post-bingo rack. There's no 7s, but there's some 8s. Elastane, Manatees. Arsenate and Serenata. There's a decent chance that I could actually bingo again. Unfortunately, Elastane does not play through the L and ligative because of this R. Manatees and Emanates don't fit through that M. This is one of those racks you're probably not going to want to play very much off. Something like Vega. It doesn't let me type what Lisa's thinking, but something like Vega through this VNG would be a really good fish because it doesn't block anything. Also scores better than most fishes at like 17. Some of the scores that I report may not be accurate because I don't play very much live, and so I'm not great at checking scores, but against Elise, It doesn't give you previews or anything for move score, so you kind of have to just kind of figure out what things score on your own. Most of the time, instinct is going to pretty much accurately tell you anyway. I'm almost certain that I just need to snap back with a G through that J. I'm just going to do a quick scan to make sure that I'm not missing any of the bingos that I already talked about. I don't think alienates is an anagram to that IL. GIMP does definitely extend the game. A play like to the R, like a lot of human players might have wanted to do, or to the S. Makes it a lot easier to close the board than to play over here, which requires me to block, but since this ln negative, you know, it stops this lane, but it also means that I'm not really blocking much of anything besides scoring opportunities. But, you know, it obviously makes you know, with basically what I'm saying is a lot of other plays in that quadrant would have given me a comeback that would have really closed the board more than this does. This really doesn't close the board. All it really does is take out a corner of the board that could potentially have been used to make an extremely easy to block desperation lane. And Elise has all sorts of better lanes. It's got this A, it's got this R, it's got this. It's got some other minor lanes too, things like this. To this point, I've definitely outdrawn Elise. I got both blanks at the beginning. I've generally had pretty good racks most of the time. The Elise is running pretty close. Probably a major reason is that Elise is able to figure out what tiles I have, which is something that Quackle does not do by itself. And so it's able to basically look at my play and try and figure out what I could have played, what had I had different tiles, and it uses that to determine its play. And that is something that I can do too, but it's really hard for me to do it at this time control when Elise is able to, you know, on my fairly powerful computer, is able to reply pretty fast to me. And especially since I'm trying to talk as well. That definitely has, you know, something of an impact, but probably not a huge one. I don't think I have a bingo. Odinata plus an S isn't anything. I'm actually quite close to a number of things from this B. So even though it's a minor minor lane, it could be worth trying to get one. Maybe even considering keeping the O, because that goes fairly well with the B, but yeah, my Vega isn't available. I don't have anything exactly like that. I'm looking at this. There's one H out, one unseen S. Odds are against Elise being able to directly hook it. One issue is that Elise could play on top of this E and take out both lanes at once. So it doesn't really matter that Elise might not be able to hook it. I could also go with just a simple fish like this. Or this is probably better even. Although it might, Elise might be more certain that I'm fishing after do than after oot. Oot might look more like a balancing play. You do want vowels for this lane. Makes this lane easier to use. This lane less so, but also this lane. This is better than do. Takes out a scoring spot, which is, it's not a major scoring spot, but it is one. I don't want to do something VO something, try and make a new lane, but all it'll do is make it easier for Elise to close the board. Even though I'm winning, I am fishing, because I think I'm probably closer to a bingo than Elise is. And because there's not a whole lot of other things to do on this board. Play through this G or something maybe, but there's nothing that balances that you can really do that with. I play off 0-0, I draw 0-0. Literally the last two O's. That's really not a good sign when that happens. It means I haven't accomplished anything at all with that turn except for scoring 16 points. Which even on this Feast or Famine board is very much below average. So I'm very concerned right now. I think Elise is probably still a turn away from a bingo. Could be wrong. But so am I. And now Elise kind of has more of the initiative. Because I drew two O's, I don't have anything better through the G than I already did. I can play something like tag, but that leaves me with both of those O's. I could try Oda again, but having gone past another turn, that makes it just more likely that Elise has gotten one of those hooks, either the H or the S. So I think Moo will probably go down as a mistake. I'm just not really, I just can't identify what I should have played instead. I doubt I'd be in much better shape after oot. I could try to be really aggressive with oot here. Could play Toot here, which is sort of closing. Ooh, Elise fished. Elise fished. That's fascinating. I really want a bingo back here. I think Oda is the best way. No, this might be the best way, actually. Normally, this is exactly a thing that you wouldn't want to do. Give just the super easy, super user-friendly bingo lane when you know your opponent's about to bingo. But here's the thing. I've got pretty good bingo tiles too. And if Elise bingos and I bingo, there's a good shot that I still come out fine. So you kind of take a gamble at that point. It's not a gamble that worked out very well. I don't have a bingo, I don't believe. And Elise does have been nightier. However, there are still multiple spots. This is still by far the best one. This is okay. I could still score off this. I'm disinclined to play my Tef. Because it just blocks one of those lanes, so I'm just, I guess Fawn is also a thing I could do besides maybe I should, because Fawn makes it harder to block this if Elise wanted to. Elise can't block with the parallel play, has to play up here. May not want to do that. Slightly better leave too. But really, if you don't draw a bingo, it doesn't matter. The Q's out, the Z's out. Elise is probably already thinking about Q spots. There aren't a lot of great ones. There's no QI, for example. You could play QAT through that A. It may want me to bingo and then try and stick me with a Q. That may be its backup plan. So I may want to try to keep QAT possibilities, like QAT Tum, QAT up here. QAT Tum is obviously the best scoring one. If it was thinking of that far enough ahead, it may have even been anticipating getting that for itself if it didn't bingo. However, Elise has the Q, and Elise used that to block my best bingo lane. Quite a good block, because it also means I can't just like dump BO and try, or do something, try and create another lane over here that's almost impossible now. And going up 381 to 337 is enough that I can't just dink around and try and catch it at the end. it is probably not reasonable to try to attempt a Z stick unless Elise is going to bingo out. Or not bingo out, but bingo with and draw the bag or whatever. So yeah, the thing about playing Elise, it eventually, unless you beat it, which, you know, happens from time to time, but it eventually is going to try and position you in a very, very frustrating situation, and you're just going to hate it. And this one kind of took longer than most of the time. What I'm doing here is because B-A-Y-E is a word, I'm hoping I'm going to draw an A and get something here. And then there's, you know, this not particularly good backup spot, and to block both is slightly difficult. Actually, no, it's not. You can just play off the T. If you don't, well, it's slightly difficult. Like, it gives you something. But this is really a shot in the dark. Chances are it's not going to work out. Now there's 5 in the back, so it'll be interesting to see. I have a play, Abthanes, from this A, which, if Elise is not able to block that and this, or if it chooses to just block this, or just block the H, then I could win. I could probably win the game, but it just depends on what the pool is from Elise's perspective right now. What that's going to be. It certainly is aware that Abthanes is in the pool. That's a possibility. It could happen. AYE probably makes it more likely that I have a B than average, so it's probably looking harder at those B bingos. I'm looking at what I can play in the end game. Something like THEGN over here would be a pretty good end game, playing a lot of end games, but let's be realistic here. If it gets to the point that I'm playing that word, I have probably lost the game. I'm probably only winning if Abthanes goes down. And, you know, I made a valiant effort with that diversion to maximize the chances of something like that happening, but it's not like I have unblockable. I'm far from it. But yeah. I mean, I say it's frustrating. The way this one went, you know. Well, actually, this is far from frustrating. Goes up by 97. I actually think Abthanes is still going to win. Yep. All right. Yeah. So that's Elise.